very well.
Now, let's just hope we're not both wrong tonight. No, thank you.
You talking like the Eagles fan? Is that usually talking about?
Another place bought it, another bought it, and they did ice cream barbecue. And they served
I'm just saying. I know when we're sometimes you see all I'm saying, there would have been no complaint about it. These players are already picked out.
We all know.
You call me Bob, Rob, or whatever.
Don't come in late for supper.
Yeah. 30 years later, they're sitting.
At least they didn't name me Sue, right? Thank you.
There you go. Johnny Cash had something to say about that.
Yeah, right. It's a good song. It's just natural. It's nice. I don't, yeah. Not well, but I know where it is.
So all my kids have really, I only
This is literally where I was in last time. We were neighbors, so I was like, we gotta do it. Yeah. Yes. I'm not superstitious. Another divorce rate.
The other ones were that much bigger. Yeah, look them up.
Well, maybe that's it. They still have I thought
There's a lady up front.
yeah, she had her friends. Who does that? Todd, he does the council. Oh, yeah. Jake was 2 years into it. She had her leader. He was 80, I was 90. Mine was
Reddish hair, beard.
Mine was from the middle back?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't remember his name, but he's here from the person that don't want anybody to know. You already all know.
She's definitely better than two. Look at that.
Yes.
How was your trip? Saw the picture you put out.
I got it. It's like 3 years ago. I got a change here. My kid, he wanted to. Yeah. I watched it for me. Yeah, I think I didn't buy a lot of food. All right, it's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We can begin, please, with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Van Hove, if you would call the roll, please.
Chairman Robert Johnson.
Present.
Chairman Conrad Macbeth.
Conrad absent.
Ed Griffith.
Here.
Rich Van Hove is here. Steve Anderson.
Here. 4 present, 1 absent. I would invite, given the number of folks here, and since we're not using a PA system, if you guys want to move up forward, that would be helpful, I think, for all of us, and make sure we can all hear what's going on. And thank you. Minutes of the last meeting, comments or questions? I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting from September 10th, 2025.
I'm moving to approve the minutes. September 25, second.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Minutes approved. I welcome once again a motion to appoint Melissa Berner as the ad hoc secretary for tonight's meeting. Mr. Van Ho moves. Supported by Mr. Griffith. Thank you. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you. You're stuck with us again.
Yeah.
Let me ask one more time for any public comment issues. The floor is open. Anything you want to say? Going once. I've never met a group so reticent to speak. And again, I sort of feel like the pastor at church when everybody that comes in sits in the back pews, but that's okay. All right, public comment closed. Next item on the agenda, Ms. Korpar, would be any responses you have to questions that came up last week. And if you want to be in a place where everybody can hear you, that's fine.
Do you want me to, when you say that, where would you like me to sit? Do you want me to face folks this way or?
That's up to you.
Okay. So, I mean, typically I'm addressing the planning commission, but please, folks, if you can't hear me and need to hear me, let me know. I'll make sure I address you both. As far as the questions from last week go, I've shared them with my team. They're working on written response, so I don't have anything new for you today, but we'll get that to you.
Okay, that's the entire list of questions, all the stuff we discussed?
Yeah.
All right, so be it. And I know that the group has a new list. So that's going to put a lot of pressure on next week's meeting. And hopefully some of those responses perhaps might be electronic so they can be reviewed before we get to the last planning commission meeting next week when we've got to make some choices.
Understood.
Okay?
We are working on written responses, so essentially like what I've done just from a process side of it is sent this to Francesca. She's our development manager. She's distributed it to the appropriate subject matter experts. We're getting that list of questions together so that we can return it all to you. So we will have it in writing.
All right, thank you. Let me start with will that be before our meeting?
I can't really speak to the timeline of the team, but I will definitely take a note. Just so you know who we have here today, we have Caitlin. She's our local liaison person. She's taking the notes for me today about any questions y'all have. So please take a note that they'd like for next meeting.
Will do.
Y'all know RG from last time. He runs our old 300 solar facility. He's our ops person. And then I'm Marla Korber, and I'm our development director for our MISO region, which is our Midwest region.
There's a fairly large topic that I know there's a number of questions about that deal with soil and topsoil and the issue of farmability in 30 or 35 years. I have to speak to some level of embarrassment here. My wife and I have been undergoing a major landscaping project at our home outside of the village. Uncountable loads of fill and I think 150, 180 yards of topsoil. I found out after that was in place, it came from BP's Arch solar farm. That they stripped the topsoil. I'm mortified and embarrassed to have been a part of stripping topsoil off of farmland in, I think is that Fulton County? You start looking online, there's a construction company that posted an extensive article about their smart bulldozers and how effective they were at stripping untold amounts of topsoil and fill off that ground to do that project. My wife's thrilled to have some native Buckeye dirt in her backyard, but at what price? I have been around, I've seen that project before, and I cannot imagine any way possible that that ground's going to be farmed at the end of that project's life. The terrain's a little hillier than here, and they stripped it to nothing. I know there's some other discussion on topsoil. Rich, you got some notes, questions?
Yeah, I was going through the drawings and you got listed 61,500 lineal feet of 16-foot wide access road. 2,500 feet, 20-foot wide access road. You don't have listed, there's, you call them hammerhead turnarounds. I counted pretty close to 36 of those. And 25 of the access is from the existing roadways. How many yards of topsoil, subsoil were removed to make these new roads and the turnarounds and the access? Will all that be kept on site? All that soil be kept on site?
So
Because I don't see anywhere on the drawings,
yeah,
any place where you have laydown areas for that amount
yeah.
of soil.
I mean, my first answer, but I want to make sure I speak to this in some detail because I don't want to just defer everything, is I'll need to talk to our engineering team, because when it comes to that level of detail, I honestly don't know. They're the experts in it. And I'm afraid to quote PA 233 with the siting regs, but I'm off the top of my head, I was thinking that topsoil has to remain on the property from a regulatory perspective. But at Orsted's standard is to leave it on the property and basically like, redistribute it. But I mean, the roads, I'm just trying to think what I...
Is this a topic covered in your leases?
We do address access roads. So essentially in our leases, we commit to returning the soil back to the condition it was prior to construction. So for example, if there was topsoil that was removed, it would need to be put back. The detail of what that looks like, I can't really speak to. Let me get you an answer because I feel like I just don't know the level of detail and I'm going to be...
You also, there's another detail that shows where you're going to keep it. It's no more than 10 foot tall and puts a little silt fence around it. And there's going to be close to 40,000 cubic yards of dirt.
Do you feel like you got the level of notes you need for that to understand the question?
Yeah, so can we reiterate on a high level what the question is? How much topsoil is going to be removed to make these
Topsoil
access?
and then the subsoil. It's going to go down a foot.
Okay.
And then that's specific to roads, new roads.
Okay, roads,
Turnarounds, lay-down yards, substations.
lay down. You got 2 10-acre laydowns.
Yeah.
And possibly going through the notes in each drawing, possibly, another 10 acres.
Yeah.
I mean, there are 40 or 50
Lay down.
acres of stone,
Yeah.
12 miles of access road
Yeah.
on prime farm ground that PA 233 says should not be adversely impacted by this development. So of course, we want detailed answers on how those things can be correct
Yeah.
and compatible.
Yeah, understood. Sorry I can't give you more today, but at the next meeting, I guess just to provide some higher level context too, our plan is to have all of our subject matter experts back here to address any questions that I can address, either from last week's meeting, this week's meeting.
I think we'd welcome, if you are willing,
Yeah.
we'd welcome a redacted copy of a lease.
Yeah, and absolutely. And they're also, like if you don't want the redacted copy, they're on the county website, so you could pull off any. But I'm happy to just pull a couple off the website for you. Let me put that aside.
If you guys need more time, do you want to give us a 30-day extension so we can vet this more thoroughly?
I mean, I don't think we need more time.
Okay, thank you. Rich?
Okay.
There are some road and stone questions, I think, that tie into this.
Well, that was the majority of it. And how much gravel? Do you know how many loads of gravel?
I don't know, but we'll get you an answer.
I kind of figured.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Kind of did. There's
These are
over
fair
2,000
Yeah.
gravel train of 50-ton loads of stone gotta come in on our roads. What is 2,000 loads of
Yeah.
50-ton gonna do to the roads?
Yeah.
And what route you gonna take?
The roads are really, that's a common thing that comes up for us in construction. As far as like what's the weight that's being carried, and that's something through road use agreements with the county that we'll address. So that's something actually, I think Kevin asked me at the last meeting was what's our next steps with the county for our road use agreements. But essentially we'll have to show, okay, here's the plan for the roads. This is what will come in on this road. This is what will come on this road. And then based on that weight, we'll agree to repair the road, to improve the road. Like it depends kind of on what the actual load and amount is. And we haven't had those negotiations yet, so I can't tell you exactly what that looks like, but that's the process.
Do you have a time? I'm sorry, do you have a timeline when you're going to approach her? I mean, I meet with them tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't. Like the other questions, I sent it. I mean, again, if you want to know a little bit more, it's probably like too much of the sausage making than you need to know, but I'm essentially our in-person representative for this. Francesca is managing all of our subject matter experts in the background to make sure we have the right questions. So she's managing getting that together, but
Well,
I
you
don't have the exact
understand,
day-to-day.
and your attorney made it abundantly clear that time is of the essence. We didn't create the 120-day window. It's an unreasonably short window for a $250 million project. Housing developments take far longer and are worth way less money. And so time is of the essence. We've scheduled these meetings as quickly as possible. We've scheduled a number of special meetings. We really thought we would have answers to the last round of questions from last week. We have 0. You're not certain you can have them ready for us next week. And of course, we only got a week or 2 after that, and we've exhausted the 120-day window. So we would hope that a project that's been in development since 2022, a lot of these answers would be at the tip of your tongue. So, you know, I think you understand my point, and I know you appreciate that. I'm just telling you, time is certainly of the essence.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge and say I hear you and definitely understand that. Our team is aware of that too, and we're moving forward. Having these meetings 3 weeks in a row, just a lot of moving parts. So we're handling it on our end, and we will have those answers to you.
Well, we're a planning commission that traditionally meets once a quarter, so we've made a tremendous accommodation. So, Rich, anything else?
Yeah, and the inverters. How many inverters are there going to be? You know?
Hundreds, I think. Let's see, it's listed in the application. Let's look, I think probably the best way to do this is to look when this is defined and point to the application.
I didn't see it in there.
Yeah. I think so that I don't waste our time.
No, there is a list. I saw it in the documents
So you thought
today.
there was 100 of them? Just off the top of your head?
I don't know. I'd rather give you a real number
I
here.
didn't.
Yeah.
I counted them on the drawings, and I come up with 66 with them.
Yeah, I'd say like less than 100, but near 66 is like,
It actually sounds more accurate.
Yeah.
It's 200 megawatt?
yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
that sounds more accurate. Even for ours, we're 450 megawatt solar farm down in Texas, and we have 117. If that gives you any idea.
Okay, so you got, I was reading through the SDS sheets and the oil that you're putting in there. Is that, how much oil goes in each one of these inverters?
It just depends on the tank. I mean, on what,
The
well,
ones you're gonna use here, how,
no, so you're speaking to the transformers. So those are the medium voltage transformers.
on the inverters?
Yeah, sorry, are these GE inverters? I don't know enough about the tech. I'm here more to speak on operations.
Can you talk
side of
it,
things, but
what you can speak to though,
yeah,
without having the exact, like amount, we can talk about relatively with your inverters, what does everyday operations and maintenance look like at your site? Because it might be a bit different, but it's gonna give you an idea of what the process looks like.
yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, so for
Reading through this, the reason I'm asking this.
yeah, is it
Reading through this,
FR3
it's-
as well?
It's very toxic if it ever spills, deadly to fish, any kind of fish. Every one of these fields drain in the River Raisin.
Could you read off what the oil is that we are filling it with?
It's a inhibited paraffin transformer insulating oil.
Okay, so it's probably a FR3, which is actually not toxic, even ingested by animals.
Well, it doesn't say this in these SDS sheets.
Okay.
It says it's
Yeah, I mean, that's typical to what we use for most projects is the FR3. It's actually biodegradable and it's not toxic to animals.
harmful to aquatic life with long-lasting effects with the SDS sheets. So if you don't use this, you have to use this if this is what you're submitting, right?
I can't speak
Oh,
to
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I haven't seen that
I know.
document either.
I've
Yeah.
worked with this
Like I
before.
said,
Yes, you do.
I can only speak to what we typically use.
And you went over
And what
with the
we
fire
have.
department, how they have to, in case there's a fire, what they have to do with this?
I actually met with our fire department yesterday.
Okay. Do not use water jets, as this will spread the fire and all that, okay. And where is it poured in? Is it pumped in? Is it coming already?
No, it's a great question. So they actually have a specific process to where they filter it through. They have like a separate trailer of a machine that filters it through, make sure that there's no other contaminants that go into the tank that we're putting the fluid
Okay,
in.
you have something in place in case a hose breaks or something? You're not dumping
Exactly.
this all over the ground?
Talk
Yeah.
about like what's your spill prevention plan and then how do you react if there would be? I don't even know if there's something to react to. Is that appropriate for solar? Like, I'm thinking about my own
Well-
gas days when I say that.
Yeah,
If it gets in the
exactly.
ground,
Well,
our
that's,
wells go
yeah,
south
I'm not,
too.
right. So, yeah, if we have that, yeah, we follow a very specific spill prevention care and control program. It's a SPCC program, to where we have spill kits even throughout the site, but something like that specifically, we have that type of material ready and available to make sure that there's nothing remaining there if there is to be a spill.
So there's no containment system like you see these
Oh,
factories?
So
There
you have
is.
secondary
There,
containment.
yeah, there is. There's containment bits, there's all sorts of stuff. Like I said, I mean, I can't list out the whole thing, but yes, there is a process. I'm sure we can find an example that we can maybe share. So, but even with us on the operation side, when we do our oil sampling and our testing, that's something that we make sure that we have containment and everything else set up so that we don't even spill a drop when we're out there taking oil samples, making sure that the machine is operating normally, that there's not anything that we need to worry about. We're pretty proactive with that to make sure that there's.
So any type of equipment that would have like any oil, like I feel like I'm not the best person to be speaking to this because I'm not the expert, but just knowing from like the ops perspective, anything that would have anything that was liquid, if that exists, would have a secondary containment. And that's like a safety requirement
Yeah,
that
we
we
do
have
monthly
to
visual
follow
inspections as
through the
well.
government. It's,
Yeah, we do monthly visual inspections. We actually check torque on all the bolts and everything, all of the hardware that's involved with the machinery. So we make sure to stay on top of that as well.
Okay. And it also says in here, it could withstand up to a 50-mile-an-hour wind. These are elevated up.
Yeah,
They're elevated up off the
Yeah.
ground a ways.
yeah, they're on like an inverter pad or an inverter skid is what it's called. Yeah, They could
We
definitely,
might get over 50-mile-an-hour wind, then when it's gonna happen.
50 mile an hour is easy. Our site actually lived through Hurricane Beryl last year, and we didn't have any inverter skids that went up.
That's in Texas. I don't
Yeah,
care
but
what's
that-
happening
you're
down there,
speaking
how
of
you get
wind,
those
though.
there. I'm concerned with what's happening in Deerfield.
Exactly, yeah, and you're speaking of more than 100 mile an hour winds that we experienced, and the inverter skids didn't move.
Are they built the same?
Are they what?
Are they
Nope.
built the same down there, or is they're gonna be built here?
I would be willing to bet they're built probably.
It's what, I'm just reading what you
Yeah.
put in here. It
Yeah.
said will withstand a 50-mile-an-hour wind.
Exactly. Again, I can only speak to the operations of it and my experience. So
And
50
Steve,
mile
that
an hour
barn
wind's
blow
pretty
down there a
regular.
couple of years ago was by a lot more than a 50-mile-an-hour wind, right in the middle of where it's gonna be too, so.
Mhm.
And we want that oil spilled all over the place.
Right. These skids that they put them on are pretty robust, the piles and everything, so.
We can get a picture of what it looks like too, just so you understand the visual of like, the skid is essentially a pad. Is it concrete?
Yeah, so there's a portion of concrete to that as well.
Just to
Yeah,
show you
and the
the-
piles,
Flowable
the
fill.
piles that
It's not concrete, it's just flowable fill.
I'm sorry.
It's not concrete, it's flowable fill that you got the pad.
Right, there's portions of it that are, and then there's portions of it that aren't.
And there,
Yeah.
all right, so
Okay.
we can find out that.
Anything else on this particular topic?
Got an inverters?
Yes.
No.
The inverters, we have 56 solar inverters located throughout the project site, as well as two 167 MVA to 345 kV step-up transformers at the substation.
Just so the commission knows, our acoustic experts reviewed the data on these inverters, and they did not actually specify a particular model in their specs, but a class of inverters. So it's not 100% certain which these will be in the end. That's our analysis at that point. So I would ask, but we may not have the weeks it takes to get an answer.
Okay. We move on to the next topic. I want to back up and be clear. I'll get to you in a second. I want to be clear. So the impression I'm getting here is that at the end of the project life, the gravel's removed, 12 miles of stuff hauled away, the turnarounds, the pads, everything's removed, the topsoil's put back. That's the impression I have.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate.
So if we put a condition in a special land use approval that says none of the topsoil will leave the site,
Yeah.
that doesn't cause you any harm.
No, I think actually that's like a really good example of how to safeguard that if you have a concern, is to make that a requirement.
Okay,
That's
thank
something
you.
like pretty
Thank you.
typical.
As we get it up, Brett, did you have a question?
I did, I'm sorry, I didn't put my name down there, but I think Rich asked something about the fire department or something like that. And then the guy said he met with him today. Was that with what fire department or
Oh, sorry, just where my solar farm is at.
your solar farm?
Yeah, we're actually, next Saturday, we're actually training 30 firefighters to be NFPA 70E certified. So, and for anybody that's not aware, NFPA 70E is the basics in electrical safety. So we figured that along with us giving a practical side of it, which isn't required for the certification, but we're giving a practical so that they can better manage. We have solar, and then we're also building battery storage at our site as well, so that they can better handle those situations for us. And then there's multiple other solar farms around in the area that already exist and more that are coming in that area. So we wanted them to be most prepared. One of my dear friends is actually trained and certified through the OSHA classroom to be able to train in those. So I met with him yesterday. We're doing that. We're also looking into getting them a drone tethering system so that because they're also a volunteer fire department and we're surrounded by volunteer fire departments as well. So to better equip them, we're getting them this drone tethering system to where they can go out to the site, they can set up the box, the drone shoots up into the air and it helps them get aerial footage of the fire or anything else on our site, their site, or any fire that they come in contact with. As you know, sometimes, even a house fire, depending on where it's going, what it's doing, it's just way easier to have aerial footage, and a volunteer fire department can't afford a pilot to be able to do all that. So we've just been doing those types of things to try to help them out.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Roger, if I can follow up on the ag land preservation and soils topic, reading your response from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, they made these recommendations. They said, site selection and layout recommendations. Select a site with the least wildlife value practicable. Sites such as vehicle parking areas using elevated solar panels, commercial rooftops, brownfields, industrial developments, or municipal solid waste landfills may provide adequate space for a solar development and have no impact to existing wildlife habit. Additionally, developing solar with compatible forms of agriculture, e.g. dual-use farming, may allow for continued crop production or grazing by using elevated solar panels and have very minimal potential for additional loss of wildlife habitat. Isn't it true that you attempted to do none of those things with this project and simply sought out to acquire farm ground? We have solar developable areas that are brownfields, landfills, rooftops, parking lots. You also could have come in with elevated panels and farmed underneath of them, as so many of your leftist proponents seem to advocate on the Facebook pages all the time. But the truth is, you've only ever pursued one thing, and that's our very high quality farm ground.
Let me tag on to that if I might. Last week, RG was talking about, we were talking about mitigating field and household tile damage. Quote, I was working as a subcontractor in Illinois, and it was the same thing. Great farmland and a lot of field tile. I look in volume 1, exhibit A1.2.3, farmland, under site and plan facilities. Soils designated as prime farmland, if drained, consist of 95.8% of the project area. How do these statements reconcile with the requirements in PA 233, section 226, 7F? The proposed energy facility will not unreasonably diminish farmland, including but not limited to prime farmland. We're talking about what, 20% of our farmland? That's a diminishment to me. And I would submit that this application doesn't comply with PA 233's requirements in this area.
Not just some prime farm ground, but demonstrably the best in the Midwest. These sections here are among the best in the Midwest. In other words, particularly in view of U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's guidelines, you could not have picked a worse place to develop a solar project than on these particular parcels.
And if you look at the background in Lenawee County, if you travel at all, the western side of the county's got a lot more terrain and hills than here. That's the difference in glaciation and this being former Lake Erie lake bed. There's a huge difference in soils. But, you know, your application says 95.8% of the project area is prime farmland.
Yep.
How do we reconcile that with what PA 233 says?
Absolutely. So, I mean, I think the two things that I can speak to are, first of all, why are we here? And I think we covered this during the public hearing, but I'll make sure that I reiterate it. It really comes down to, where are there available electrons on the Michigan grid? And that is the substation that is in this area. It's the Morocco substation. That is, Roger, I see you smiling and like,
So the location of the substation takes precedence over the location of prime farmland. That's your answer.
Under PA
That is-
233.
yeah. Well, I see what you're saying. I am not saying that. I'm explaining you from a technical perspective. That is how this project is cited. The other thing I'll say is we have 20 plus landowners, all who are farmers, who have willingly decided that this is a good use of their farmland because it allows to keep their farmland in their name and pass it to a future generation, and they full-heartedly believe after doing the research that they'll be able to use this as farmland again. So I understand what you're saying.
Could you show me that exception in PA 233, that unless it's close to a substation or the underlying farmers don't care that it's okay, because I don't see that in PA 233. It says adverse impact on prime farm ground. By your own words, it's prime. You're here because the landowners are willing and the substation is nearby, but I don't see that exception in PA 233.
Look, and to address that, can we read the sentence that's before the 95.8? So if you look at the full section, I'll read it from the beginning. The area land use maps for the proposed project display farmland classifications within the project area in a 1,000-foot, 305-meter buffer, including prime farmland and farmland of local importance. There are no soils designated as prime farmland within the project area. And then it reads,
Except that,
soils designated as prime farmland if drained.
Which it all is.
so none of this is
All it
tiled.
is. So, what you're saying is, you don't have any prime farm ground here, except by our own admission, the 95% of it that's prime farm ground, because it's all tiled and drained, which our soil expert has testified to as well. So, I'm familiar with the sentence, and it's a flat contradiction. It's internally inconsistent.
Is there any estimate or guess as to how much of this leased ground is tiled?
There is a large amount of land that is tiled. I don't know exactly the amount, but the land that is being actively farmed, a lot of it is tiled.
As we all know, virtually all farm ground in this county is tiled because it was former lake bottom. It was the original German immigrants that first tiled it to make it feasible to farm in the first place as they drained the cottonwood swamp, etc. And so there's no question, this is prime farm ground. Their documents support it, our documents support it, every soil classification supports it. It's all class 1 and 2, which is prime by itself, and you add the tiling, it's absolutely prime. I mean, again, for the commission's purposes, you could not pick, under PA 233, under U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service guidelines, a worse possible place for a solar project in the state of Michigan. Except it's convenient to the substation and there are willing landowners. It's economically expedient, which is an exception I don't see in PA 233.
All right, again, put it on the list, if you wish. A response next week, better yet, responses by email during our intervening time. Anything else on the farmland issue, Ed? Rich?
How many miles of underground conduit is there going to be? Got any idea?
I do not know off the top of my head, but we'll get back to you.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
Yeah.
Now, what is that? You're going to bore that?
So, I mean, it's typically bored. There's different ways you can do it depending on what else is happening around. Our primary way to do it would be boring. Trenching is considered in some instances, but I think in majority of cases it would be boring because that's the least impact.
Is that plan to be removed in 35 years?
So for the state of Michigan, and because there's tile, we often do not remove it because we put it under the tile. And that is like the standard practice that a lot of farmers with their land don't want it removed because they don't want to disturb the tile. That said, it's possible to do either. So that's like when you were talking about special conditions, that's something that can be considered. It's more typically a preference of the landowner, or if the township has interest, then it is, something you could consider as a special use.
Is the conduit from the inverters to the substation?
So
It's not from panel array to panel array.
Can you speak to how?
Yeah, so as far as, again, I haven't seen the specs, but even just to our site and a few of the other solar sites that I have worked on for us, a lot of the DC collections are mostly above ground, and then some then will go in the most convenient place, then into a piece of conduit, into the ground, to the inverter, where that is where the AC power comes in and provides power then over to DC for those.
So that would be removed at the end of the project life because it's not as deeply sited, or is that all being bored too?
Anything that goes underground has to either be identified via, like, trying to identify tiles and
Right.
then be around them, or be bored under. I know we talked about that a little bit last week. The approach depends on what's appropriate at the construction site, but likely either way, even if it's above, the chance of it hitting tile and having more soil disturbance, usually landowners choose to leave it in. But that's, again, something that can be considered.
So you don't have a depth picked out yet then?
Yeah.
And
I could, if you want to know about depth though, like, I can ask our team if tiles are typically located where, how low do we go under, would probably be the best I could give you.
all these boring pits that you call out, are those gonna be permanent concrete casements with a lid on them? Or what?
The
Well,
bor-
it says boring pit,
Yeah.
it's got a detail on it.
Borings, like, in this context is very non-invasive because it's small, because the wire you're running is relatively small. So there'll be a small hole that essentially the technology runs through and then it runs out. And then afterwards it will be capped.
You got on your drawings, boring pits.
I don't know the terminology, but that's what our boring process typically looks like.
It's probably just deferring or referring to just what it is at the time and then backfilled after. So usually, again, from what I've seen is that there's conduit that then that cable then comes out of, and that conduit only goes a couple feet into the ground from where we then had a bore pit, but then it's all dirt from there.
You don't have a detail on what even one looks like.
I could just say that it is, well, we could probably provide photos or some photos. Yeah, it's not like.
At your site, like,
It's
can you
the-
even recognize where there was boring now that it's an operation?
Not unless we use the map. I mean, there's
Yeah.
vegetation that's grown over it. We've done, I mean, the construction team
I mean-
did a heck of a job for any of those areas where they reseeded with natural vegetation and put it back to the way it was.
Very practically speaking, like, when boring is done, to the common eye, you shouldn't be able to tell that it was at that location, but we can provide a photo.
I see the Wildlife Service is recommending 8-foot high fences so deer can't get in, is that correct?
Without reading the document, I can't tell you the height, but what I can tell you is we'll follow the recommendation of the Wildlife
There's a
Service.
concern about deer entrapment, which I know Ranger Powers had an ongoing issue with in Owasso, gates being left open, deer being trapped inside. Strikes me as the very definition of habitat fragmentation, which usually the environmental left is very concerned about. You have a substantial amount of area outside your fenced-in boundary, right?
You mean under lease?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so will that go back to agriculture? Is that going to be mowed? Is that going to be, what's your intentions with that?
That's up to the leaseholder, so whatever is outside of the fence line will be released, and then I don't want to speak for them, but whatever their typical practice with the rest of their
With the part
land.
you're under control of.
Yeah,
So my question is this, I've seen a lot of solar installations that, particularly when they were cited under local regulation, never thought to require regular mowing outside the fence or around the arborvitae. And as a result, it grows up to weeds. Everything inside the perimeter is mowed because it affects your generation if the weeds get too tall. So I guess, how often will you mow the area under your control outside the fence? Is that going to be 3-4 times a summer? Is it once a year? Is it something we could stipulate in a conditional land use permit? I mean, in my mind, 1 out of 4 dead arborvitae and then weeds this tall. From first of all, is bad practice for farming when there's so much concern about nuisance weeds in the first place.
Yeah.
And yet I see that happening not at 1 or 2 solar installations, but most. So it becomes a critical component. So if you're willing to agree to that stipulation, I think it'd be foolhardy not to make sure that's mowed 3 or 4 times a year.
Yeah.
We typically do that. As Marla had said, that it really just depends on the lease agreement. I'll give you an example. We have one, they're not even a landowner, but they spoke with the landowner. They're renting a house that's on the land. And what we ended up doing was still mowing a portion of it, but they didn't want to see the solar farm. So, we came up with a regular or a natural seed mix that then grows so they don't necessarily see the solar farm. But then we mowed an area as well because they were noticing that some of, they wanted a little more distance between us and the solar. So it's really just working with landowners and yourselves, making sure that everybody, is happy with how we manage the vegetation, both inside and outside.
And from my perspective, the zoning administrator who could be put in the position of having to enforce these things, first of all, I would say you all seem like very nice folks and very earnest. I've dealt with a lot of developers for the last 16 years, and I will say you've come across more sincere than the majority of them.
Yes.
That being said,
Appreciate that.
the repeated news in the financial sections of the paper shows that Orsted is in serious financial trouble. They had to sell a bunch of, they had to acquire $8.9 billion in equity, not to fund future expansion, but simply to maintain ongoing operations. And now Equinor, as far as I know, an oil company's throwing in $1 billion in this thing. It's not unreasonable for us to have serious concerns about the long-term viability of Orsted, whose share price since 2012 has dropped 90%. Will you be the partner with our community 3 years from now or 1 year from now? I mean, those are assurances you guys can't make us because it's way above your pay grade too. Look, and we struggle to see how we protect our community from that risk. I mean, Ranger Power's track record on the projects I've seen is not like the example you paint, but what if they end up as the next owner? I mean, we need some assurances that are enforceable if this thing proceeds as proposed.
There's 2 things from our standpoint, and it doesn't matter if we're dealing with BP, whoever we're dealing with, it behooves us to look 30 years into the future. Now we're talking about pulling out concrete, pulling out endless yards of stone, restoring this, on and on and on. And I don't know of any company that I can sit there and go, yeah, by God, they're going to be around in 30 years, let alone with the unfortunate struggles that your parent company is dealing with. Combined with the unfortunate wording in PA 233 that says there is not a full decommissioning bond in place for 10 years. Okay, so that means now we've got to look and say, are these guys going to make it for 10 years?
Which begs the question, would you guys accept as a condition fully funding the decommissioning in year 1?
Yeah. I think these are reasonable questions to ask. Like, obviously, I can't answer that, commit to that on behalf of Orsted, but that's something that we'll look at and get an answer for you like we are on these other questions.
Thank
and
you.
I just want to acknowledge, like you said, Kevin, you feel like this behooves both the project and the community. That is something that we really like to work with on our local communities, are like, what are the things you're worried about? And what can we agree to so that you feel more comfortable? So like the thing like mowing, there's kind of the 2 pieces to it. One is we do release the most of the land that's right outside to begin with, so that 1, our landowners can have that back in ag use if they choose. And 2, there's not really a use for the project to own land or have land, not own, lease land that's not in operational use. So it's released. But like the mowing thing makes total sense.
And frankly, I would say to the commission, my own personal opinion, arborvitae as a screening strikes me as ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
It's ineffective, and my informal recommendation to you guys would be, if you maintain proper mowing, skip the trees, because they, in my experience, make it look worse and don't screen anything.
For me personally, the by far bigger issue is a decommissioning bond year 1, not year 10.
Yeah.
And especially given the current political business climate as it affects not just you guys. You know it, I know it.
Yeah.
But all these things that we're talking about here that deal with decommissioning that we need to be concerned about for our children and grandchildren, that says, if you lockstep PA 233, 10 years. And for me to sit and be comfortable and say, we're gonna still have somebody around to do that decommissioning 10 years from now, that's a serious, serious concern. Sorry, Kevin, that's a bigger one for me than mowing.
Oh, I agree. And, you know, and unlike a wind project, because I saw Cordelia Power was here, I guess they've stepped out. If Cordelia goes bankrupt, the farmers keep farming. If your solar project stops and sits for a couple of years due to financial problems, the farmers, A, probably aren't going to get their lease payments, and B, can't farm it either. So there's a tremendous risk there in a way that's not true with a wind project. So, I mean, yeah, the financial risk to us as a community is high, and so that the commission knows and the public knows, under any other special land use permit provision, if a developer came in, made a promise, agreed to these stipulations, and then 5 years out, they broke the terms of that special land use permit, we could revoke that special land use permit. Guess which land uses Governor Whitmer has taken away our ability to revoke a special land use permit for? Wind, solar, batteries. So even though we have this power to negotiate this now, if they break the terms, our hands are tied in a way that they are not with any other developer, including a coal-fired power plant or a gas-fired power plant. We would have authority to do things over that we don't here. So, not to mention, we've been given 120 days to process a $250 million project.
One quick one. The PowerPoint you presented on August 15th, as we've talked, and it has significantly different numbers on tax distribution than what we saw from ESA and what we saw in that time frame from our appraiser. Okay. Yours shows 3 times more money to Britton Deerfield schools than what we got from our appraiser. But at the same time, your numbers are showing $80,000 a year or a little less. During the PowerPoint presentation, and let me forgive you in advance, you said 12 million to Deerfield schools. The correct word was, it was 12 million over the project to the ISD, not here. And that then was it. That was on your graph.
Yeah.
You know, we all misspeak when we're standing in front of a group, and understood and forgiven. But the other side of that is $78,000 a year does not allow us to build new school facilities, as what was the claim. So as that question is one that we're deferring to next week, let me add that little piece of data.
I'll mention with that, I do know, like, with us looking at that data, I asked Francesca to go back to our tax consultant and trying to get more granular so that you have a clear view of like what things look like year to year for your request. So we are working on it.
And it would frankly be very, very helpful to have that in time for our appraiser to review it and confirm or deny that. All of these questions have priority, but again, to have that information and some real numbers on what's the township get, what does the local school get. I don't give a damn about Lenawee County. I'm sorry, Kevin. I could care less.
You know, I can raise your taxes.
I care about what accrues to the township, our emergency services crew. To me, those are the important numbers. We're talking a Deerfield Township project affecting Deerfield Township residents, and if we're claiming great benefits and all the preaching we get about why we need to do this for the money, I want to know what the money is.
Got it.
Next topic, if I might.
It's your meeting.
I'm sorry.
You're the chairman.
Who else can I piss off?
You're the chairman.
I want to review some stuff from the August meeting and kind of poll the the commission here on what their responses were. In some of your presentation, you said you're introducing people. And Viviana from First Solar, they're the manufacturer we're working with, and they're headquartered right over the line in Perrysburg. Accurate?
Accurate.
Later, how do we have American workers? And again, this is pulled from the electronic transcript, but
Yep.
how do we have American workers, American-made products? What does the full life look like? A big way we do that is with First Solar. First Solar is the manufacturer we're using and citing on this project. And we have an existing agreement in place with them. What was your impression on who this panel supplier was after that meeting?
For solar.
Or solar.
I wasn't there.
I wasn't there. Coward.
But no, just real quick here, First Solar, aren't most of the solar panels shipped over here overseas and they're not produced down there, there's ships of them that come in for
So that-
First Solar.
something that-
Because there's people that watch the ships for that company that come over here.
All right, let me hold the response. Let's finish the point and then I'll turn it over to you. Viviana stood up during public comment. I'm part of the local affairs team at First Solar. First Solar is the module technology supplier for this project. And the electronics transcript, well, she said something about 30,000 jobs. First Solar's total U.S. employment is 8,100, but it wasn't a clear statement. Again, First Solar's the module technology for this project. Then, a week ago, your comments. We're looking at First Solar panels. And then in the discussion about recycling, you said we have a commitment to recycle both with First Solar and any other panels we use.
So to be clear, First Solar is who we're using on this project. We have a 100% recycling commitment at Orsted to both
Not in
solar
question.
and wind. Oh, I'm sorry, that's where I thought you were going.
Well, I think he was going as to, you said, or any other panel we use.
That's where I was going.
Okay.
Yeah, so the 100% commitment for our entire company is like, what kind of panels do you have at your site?
We have JA and Longi Solar.
Yeah, so they don't have First Solar, but we're also committed to recycling them. So that was I was trying to show that we are all encompassing of recycling, not just with First Solar.
Okay, the question isn't about recycling.
Okay,
The question is, whose panels are you using?
First Solar.
She made it clear.
100%.
100%. And like one of the reasons, first of all, we have a procurement agreement with them. So we have procured a ton of First Solar panels that we're using across projects over multi-years. That's because of the American-made piece of it. For this project, it was particularly important to us because they are located so close. It was, I mean, to say it, this is an elegant way to say it, but like it would be a shame not to.
Okay, my point being, the comments August 13th, the comments last week seem to indicate a difference.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way, but
Okay. Secondly, the comments about American workers, American-made projects, tagging on to where Steve was going. First Solar has a massive operation in Malaysia where most of the panels that I'm aware of are produced. So there are 2 or 3 production facilities in the U.S. are where your panels are going to come from.
I mean, honestly, I don't know the answer. That's something I can talk to Viviana about and get the answer. Like, the whole reason we have the agreement is to have American-made, but I don't want to sit here and promise you because I'm not the one who's procuring the panels. That's my procurement team. So if I sat here and looked you in the eye and said, I know right now today.
So then how do we categorize statements that say, how do we have American workers, American-made products? You said that, and
So-
now we're going, well, we're not sure.
Well, Viviana spoke to their domestic pipeline. And I don't have that exact quote in front of me. I could pull up the transcript if you would like. But the idea of partnering with them is the total American made. But I don't want to sit here and tell you how they make their panels because I'm not the one who is watching that supply chain. But I can get that answer for you.
But it's critical for the investment tax credit and one big beautiful bill, right?
Yeah.
That, you know, there's now foreign sourcing issues that affect your ability to qualify for tax credits.
Yeah. I mean, the fact of the matter is, like Kevin just pointed out, I'm quite confident the answer is yes. But I'm under the impression that you feel like I'm like trying to get one over on you, so I want to get the right answer for you rather than inferring or guessing.
I would guess you can comprehend a touch of confusion here.
Yeah, I see
between
what you're-
those statements and these, okay?
Yeah, so I'll get you an answer, and I wish I could give it to you right now, but
What else, gentlemen? Steve, Ed?
I have a question about the print, actually. Every page on it that I see says not for construction. So are we actually getting what we're seeing?
on
Or
the
is it
site
all
plan.
subject to change?
So the design process is 30, 60, 90. It's like the shorthand for it, meaning as we move further down in construction, we continue to refine. This is 30% drawings. So when a project is at this stage, essentially the full investment hasn't been made. Without a permit, there's no route to market. So you don't buy these really detailed drawings. The 60-90 gets into a lot of electrical, structural, who am I forgetting? Civil, mechanical pieces. The layout will not change as far as this is where they're going to be sited. It will continue to get more and more intricate.
So you're talking about the finer details.
Yeah,
So visual, we're seeing what we're gonna see when it's done.
Yeah.
Right now.
yep. So it's like we'll have an as-built as a part of it as well. So at the end of construction, you take this permit, let's just say in theory that this is approved, you would have this site plan, you submit a pre-construction site plan typically, then I'm assuming that's a step of this process depending on how we move forward, and then you would have the as-built, and those might have small different iterations, but they're typically the same.
I understand what as-bills are, I've worked construction
Oh.
myself, so.
So you know better than I do,
It's just,
probably.
as-bills are generally just routing things differently. So I just wanna make sure you aren't moving panels out, setbacks changing, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think like into like one level higher, whenever we get a permit, you can't change the layout where you've committed to things being cited. So like I can speak to on another project I'm working on, I have the permit, we're going into construction Q1 of next year, we're on 90s. And that's often when like mechanical things come up where the engineering team's like, hey, I want to move this to this parcel because this might not fit as well here as it does there. And I'm like, hey, well, we need to find a different solution because we don't have this approved in our permit. Or the other option would be to move forward, or I'm sorry, to go back to the county, township, whoever it is, and ask them, hey, can we make this amendment? And it kind of depends on the county's willingness. And we'll either change it if we need to with the county, it's an amendment to the permit, or we would make it work within the site plan that we have.
Rich?
I think I'm good for right now.
Go ahead.
Yeah. My question is like for the non-participating homeowners, and since you are going to be using their property as part of the setback, it's their home, the dwelling. It's not the property line. So have you reached out to any homeowners and non-participating, or maybe they might be compensated anything, or?
Yes, there's, I guess, two pieces of that. There's setbacks from both property line and from dwelling. From dwelling, it's 300 feet. And then from property line, the state statute is 50. For us, we're doing 150 or more.
Right.
As far as good neighbor agreements go, we have sent out a letter to all the neighbors to give them an overview of this process. And in these public hearings, we've let folks know, and this continues to be true, if you're interested in a good neighbor agreement, is essentially looking at, this is the project footprint, this is the setback, but you can expect coming to agreement on terms and some sort of compensation for being surrounded by the project. So if that's something that folks are interested in, Caitlin has sign-up information. We have our ways to contact us. That's definitely something we do with pretty much every project.
Yeah, when did you send out letters?
This year. I don't know the date off the top of my head, but I can
That's the
give you
first
that.
I've ever heard of that.
Yeah, so we sent out letters showing this is our project footprint to all abutting landowners.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yep.
What's the
Yeah,
criteria?
that's a new one.
What's the criteria of getting one of the letters? Because it's going right next door to me and I don't have a letter.
I don't know the answer, but we can provide a list of everyone. I don't know if we can do that because
Maybe I'm outside of that parameter,
Yeah.
outside of that criteria, which is a possibility. I'm just curious what that is in order to get a letter.
yeah. I don't know the answer off the top of my head.
Once when this finishes, because I have some doubts and stuff. we can get that.
Steve? I did some research on one of the issues that came up last week and perhaps some notes in Mr. Pomerantz' absence. He indicated that power rates here versus Denmark are immaterial, and I think his words were not apples to apples. There's a lot of different sources. The most reliable I could find shows rates in Denmark at over double what they are in Michigan. That in the face of the constant claims that this is our way to cheaper power, this is our way to save on our electric rates, this is the way, but then you look again at the most unbiased source I can find, and look, they're all over the map. There's one that claims Denmark's 4 times what the US is. Okay. That the rates are attributable to, and this is a quote, and forgive me, I did not cite where the quote came from. I'll find it if I need to. Attributable to aggressive renewables policy in Denmark and taxes. And what an interesting coincidence is that the taxes are set by the entity that owns a majority of your stock. So that says, geez, if we need to raise cash or whatever, we can throw more tax on the rates, or we permit a higher rate. I know the background of Orsted is, I think, Dong, is that correct? Danish oil and natural gas, is that the translation?
Yeah.
And now, second biggest investor is...
May have thought it.
I honestly think this might be the first room that didn't laugh when they heard that.
I was exceedingly proud of having kept a straight face.
I'm sorry, I really shouldn't have said that.
Some things, no matter what the language is, some things just don't translate well. He said that Orsted does not supply the majority of the electric power in Denmark. I cannot find anywhere that doesn't say they do. And then the second biggest shareholder is Equinor, as Kevin pointed out. Equinor is, for those of you not familiar, is a Norwegian oil and natural gas company, 2/3 owned by the Norwegian government. So we're being surrounded by Vikings, friends. That's what the Viking invasion has started, and by God, we're going to go back and we're going to get 2,000 acres of Greenland.
Yeah. Maybe it's time to actually
The
take
point
Greenland.
being, and this as simply a counter to his claim that this is an apples to apples. The core is, we're being told this is a way to save on our electric rates, and here's your home country with the highest rates in Europe. That doesn't lend a lot of credence to the claim. Are there any comments on the safe harbor issue?
Roger, may I just ask, with the
Okay, oh, you're still on my last topic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
parallel, but something I was thinking about from that discussion last week, would you want to see what does electricity costs look like in states that have more mature renewable energy?
I know what those are, thanks.
We're familiar with that, and a lot of those, like everybody wants to talk about ERCOT.
Yeah.
ERCOT is not a direct comparison to Michigan at all,
Yeah.
because we're a regulated monopoly state,
Agreed.
which means every power plant adds to an increase in property, into bills that's owned and operated by monopoly utilities because of their 10.7% guaranteed rate of return on CapEx.
Yeah.
So irrespective of how cheap the energy is, doesn't matter. They're going to make additional profits. Our rates will invariably go up, which the utilities themselves have conceded.
Yeah.
I testified on energy policy for well over a decade, and we're well conversant on that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I was thinking more of like other Midwest states, but understood that you have that
I don't
covered.
want to talk about Iowa,
Texas is always the case that gets thrown at us.
where they have their own
I have
balancing
driven-
entity and half gas.
I've driven every inch of Kansas, or Texas, and Kansas. I've driven every inch of Texas, and I did not see 1 square acre of farm ground that's as good as the front lawn is here, okay? There's a lot of space in Texas that if I were looking at siting, you'd
I will
think
talk to
probably,
you
but
about
you're sure as
Texas.
hell not spending
Yeah.
$70,000 an acre to buy Texas farm ground. You're not spending $1,500, $2,000, $2,500, $3,000, $3,500 in leases for Texas ground to put solar panels on. Now, then we'll talk, that is not apples and apples, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I won't talk to you all about Texas, I agree. I was thinking more Midwest, but I hear what Kevin said. He's covered this in,
Yep.
yep.
So I got one question. We informed you guys that your application was incomplete with a short list of missing items. The response from Dickinson Wright was that essentially the answers to most of them is under PA 233, we don't have to answer this, that we're not subject to this, we don't need to provide this data. Dickinson Wright also represents Ranger Power, who applied directly to the MPSC without a township option. And the MPSC came back with a far longer and more detailed list of missing items in their application, also represented by your same law firm. Do you want to stick by your position that our objections to the incomplete application were unreasonable when your law firm is dealing with a far larger one from MPSC, who was the authority they were appealing to and saying that we don't have to give you that information? Do you have any comment on that at all?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and review our answer, to be honest.
I could have answered that for you, by the way. We've heard that answer a lot tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure Mr. Weiss may want to come and give us another talking to. But I just wanted to get that out there because, you know, the clear implication, first of all, our tone has softened, but the initial responses were quite aggressive on your part, painted us as basically not bargaining in good faith, and our concerns about the incomplete application were dismissed as unreasonable expectations. Yet as the evidence comes out of the Public Service Commission, it's clear that there's probably many more things we should have been requiring of you. And I'm willing to guess that the MPSC is going to want answers faster and more quickly and more thoroughly than we are even given the time to compel here, because you guys can quickly run out the clock, and that's where we're at. So next week, we will be faced with an array of options. We will deal with that quickly and effectively. We may very well have more questions to ask of you and your team, but we certainly expect to finish our deliberation over this within the 120-day time frame.
The
Unless
question
you want
about
to give us
the,
30 days so we can do a more detailed investigation, that's up to you.
oh, I'm sorry, the question about the missing road commission data, is that on the active list to look at?
Yes.
That went out today, I think, didn't it, Kevin?
Which?
There was-
Well, yeah, because
Missing road commission
yeah, your
data.
book says that, flip to section 4.4, whatever it is, Exhibit A 4.4, and you can see all the communications from the Lenawee County Road Commission. What were in there was communications with Lenawee County Planning Commission, and no communications were listed at all with the Road Commission. So we would like those documents. I know the communications have taken place, because like I say, I see Scott Merrill once a month. Again, they expected an application from you guys this spring, and have not heard from you since then. So anyways, I will follow up with them again tomorrow, but you know, your exhibit says that here's the communications, and they're not in there. So if you could forward those to us, that would be useful.
Now, if you missed it, that question about the missing appendix was sent today via email.
Okay.
Okay, if you missed it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any safe harbor comments?
No.
All right. Any other issues from the commission? Zoning administrator?
No, I've said enough.
Legal counsel?
No, I'm good. Except I'll defend Texas. I like Texas. He was feeling bad about Texas.
I'm from Illinois, but I love Texas.
If you could have picked a state worse than Texas, you did.
Trust me, I know where I'm from. Y'all are talking about politics and things that go on.
I'm
Like,
guessing you're in the
I know a
red,
state that's got some pretty.
I'm guessing you're in the red minority. I'm just saying.
Well, you know, it's yeah, an interesting contrast in obviously geography, structure, you know, geology, on and on and on.
And generation mix in the grid. It's far easier to shove a lot of renewables in when A, they were gifted a $4 billion transmission line,
Yeah.
and B, the rest of their generation mix is highly flexible gas.
Yeah, yeah. Now, while I accuse Mr. Pontriand of using the not apples to apples comparison, that he did it inappropriately, now here we are going, Michigan and Texas, that's not apples to apples, but forgive us the inconsistency. All right, other issues.
You know, if somebody moves to adjourn, he can't stop you.
All right.
Did anybody sign to speak? Did anybody sign up? I didn't look.
No,
Then,
and that was at the beginning of the meeting.
where are we at here? Any other business in front of the Planning Commission? Next special meeting is next week. I'm certain that our Orsted friends will have a lot of time and a lot of the floor and a lot of things to respond to next Wednesday night. And with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Rich, support from Steve. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion adjourned. Meeting adjourned.
I know I'm over.
Closer, I think, than I am.
Dive in. In fact, I'll tell you what.
I'm not saying I did say
How do we do, boss?
No, he was across the road from me. We're on off.
You like my little cheat there?
What's that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta be too vain to get irrigated, so that's what I do.
Yeah. But we need to modify that.
Okay, you're on P then. Here's Corey, here's
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm right here. Okay, okay.
We have a little spot right here, because this is Swindon, but she was right here. Right here, there's Ed. He's right there, I mean, he's right in the thick of
I'm
it.
worried about the water.
Oh, and you know, when it gets into the waterway and
She technically still owns it, but she doesn't live there anymore.
Well, that's like I say, and this is what I say, so if they're going off the dwelling, this is gonna be right on your property.
Oh, yeah, because it was.
Right.
you know, if there's something I got a good job, I don't have to, you know, so. No water for me, girl, I had.
You don't know what's in here, I'm just kidding.
I thought there was something in there.
It's making any sort of, part of what might be.
I'm not saying that I'm doing it or anything like that, I just curious.
Like even if we don't do anything.
elevated levels